Welcome back to the Adventure Reignition podcast. Today's episode is going to be a solo round about my marathon race I've done 3 weeks ago, beginning of May 2024, the Geneva Marathon. And we're going to uncover, and I will reflect and uncover some lessons that endurance training and marathon running taught me about life. So even if you're not a runner yourself, stay with us here because you might be interested about the lessons that you can also apply in your day-to-day life. So to give you a little bit of context, I signed up for this marathon, I think at the end of 2023. And for me, the goal was quite clear, straight from the bat. It was to run and not even walk during the race. The reason why is that this marathon is my second one, and the first one was quite probably the hardest physical thing I ever done so far. And it was hard because I totally underestimated the amount of training, the amount of preparation needed for such a race. So to give you a little bit of context, I always been quite good in endurance running throughout my childhood. I've always been probably around the best on endurance, and I've been playing football or soccer for more than 20 years. So I always had a very good base of endurance to play on. And I did a couple of different races throughout my teenage years, and then after in my early 20s, I did 10K in Lausanne. I also done 20K and a half marathon, and that was pretty hard, to be honest, but I felt pretty comfortable about those distances. And when I ran my first marathon in Lausanne, I thought I could get away with this preparing the same way that I do a half marathon. And long story short, it didn't go as planned. So I trained for 2 months only. And after 5 weeks of training, 2 weeks before the first marathon race in Lausanne, I just injured myself. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I've done, is that I had no idea how to train properly for a marathon. So I injured, and I decided to still do the marathon. And honestly, even during the race, I completely underestimated the second half of the race. I thought, you need to do the half marathon twice, which is absolutely not the case. So I ran until the half marathon in Lausanne, the half marathon distance, and then after that, everything started to fall apart. I was feeling good at this point, and then just my body told me to stop, and I couldn't. And I almost walked for 14 kilometers. It was like walking 1 kilometer, running 1, but it was really terrible. And I ended up this race being really proud just to finish around 5 hours. So for this second attempt of doing a marathon, I wanted to apply what I learned in the first one so that I can run the second one properly under 4 hours. So that was the goal for this Geneva Marathon. And this time, instead of training for only 2 months, I decided to train for around 6 months. And as I started to uncover the differences in running and really study the craft, I started to understand that I've done a lot of things wrong. And the first thing that marathon running taught me was that it's definitely something that will humble you. And even if we have big goals, big dreams, in front of them, and especially during the process and at the end, it will always humble you. Because, and I apply that a lot because I'm I consider myself as a visionary, and I love to vision things, having dreams and things, seeing things and dream big. But usually, the bigger you dream or the bigger the challenge, the bigger the work is required. And even during the training and during the race, as we will cover in the next couple of minutes, it just humbles you because you see what is needed to accomplish such a hard thing. And that's the same for your dream. So that's the first thing that endurance training and marathon running taught me about life and myself. And it's always good to kind of deflate the ego time to time. And that's why I love so much challenges in my life, because that's where you meet the substance of who you are, where you discover yourself. And that's exactly what happened in my first marathon in Lausanne and in the second one also here in Geneva. So let me just check out some of the notes just to be sure I'm uncovering everything I wanted to tell you. So I started my training around 6 months in advance, so around November. And previously, I always had this idea that to run, you always have to run at full speed. Otherwise, it's not a good training. And I also had the same approach in life. When I do something, I tend to do something at full speed. But I noticed something, either in life or for training for a marathon, and that's what happened to me in my first marathon, is that if you go too fast all the time, then you will injure yourself. And in life, it's the same. It's called burnout, or just not being able to do the things you wanted to do because you went too fast. And that's definitely something that endurance training and marathon running has taught me along life. Because I could vividly remember thinking, okay, you need to push yourself every time, either in life or running. And that's how I inevitably injure myself. And that's a lesson to pace yourself. And that's been a huge one. Being used to, through football or soccer, to go at full speed all the time, I thought for running would be the same. And I got away pretty well for a 10K race or a half marathon. But once you want to do something for a longer period of time, then you need to pace yourself, listen to your body, and try to avoid the red flags or injuries. And the balance can be quite hard to find, to be honest. And that's what I've been trying to test during this marathon training, is the balance between listening to yourself about identifying the red flags that could lead you to an injury and challenging this voice in your head that tells you to stop. So it's kind of like a difficult balance to find, but as I know my body pretty well, I would say, over the years, doing a lot of sports, adventures, movement activities, that was easier for me to identify. And that's what happened in January, 4 months before the race. I started to feel a little pain in my calf. And as my calf was the object of my injury a year and a half ago when I trained for my first marathon, I knew I needed to be very careful. And that was the first big setback that I had in my preparation. I was slowly taking off and getting into the really more intense part of my training. And that's exactly when I felt this pain in my calf. So I decided to take a step back, rest for a week, and then go back to training. But after a week of break, you definitely feel that you kind of lost a bit of momentum. But my thinking here was it's more important for me to not get injured, but keep being able to train and run the marathon than pushing now and then injure myself too badly that I cannot train as I want it and ultimately not run the race. And for life, that's exactly the same. If you are in a period of your life where you feel like you're going full speed, but you are in a surviving mode kind of state, maybe it's a time for you to take a week off. Because if you want to do what you are doing now, maybe not for the rest of your life, but at least for the next couple of years, if you want to succeed, you need to pace yourself, and maybe you need a break so that you can come back with a refreshed mind. And that is very important, to pace ourselves. And that was the first lesson, one of the first lessons I got from marathon running for the first time. And I applied this lesson in this training. And I was able to overcome that setback, focus on getting back at my training, and move on. And because I identified that red flag, I was able to overcome these moments and just keep going. And when you do something for a long time, like endurance races, you want to train yourself to be performant over a long period of time. So if it's just one tiny hole in your training or break in your business, maybe that's what will help you be there in 3 years from now. And that's what is important, because if you burn yourself out now, maybe in 6 months you're out because you just burn out. And that's not the goal when you're doing something you enjoy, you love. And that's the same spirit I want to apply here, is to have fun during the process, because the journey is the goal. So definitely learning to slow down and pace yourself was the second lesson that marathon training taught me. Then I kept training after this little setback in January, and I started to have another challenge around March, April, like 6 weeks before the race. I started to really feel tired about increasing the kilometers per week, increasing the amount of run and long distance run, and I was feeling more and more tired. And it was challenging because I wasn't sure I was progressing. I was doubting my training. I was doubting if I was actually growing as a runner. And that was a time when I wanted to quit. And that's the third big lesson here, is those self-doubt moments, they will inevitably come in your project, going after your dreams, in your training for a marathon or something else. And that's when it's the most important time to show up, to be here even if you're not at 100%. And sometimes my only goal for the session, even if I was supposed to do a long run or a fast-paced run. There are some days where my only goal was to put my shoes on and just go out for a run. Whatever length of the run, even if it was 10-15 minutes, my goal for this day was to just show up, even if it wasn't exactly the same training I wanted to do. And the fun fact about that is usually when you just challenge yourself to put your shoes on and get outside and run, once you're in the mood of doing the thing, you just do more than what you expected. But for that, you need to show up. And that's the same thing for your dreams. You're going after your projects, your adventures. Every day you need to show up. The words keep moving forward. And it happened twice in my life, very vividly, I can remember. The first one was when I lost my dad in those tragic circumstances where he ended his own life. I felt the world was crumbling around me. But the world was still running and keep going forward. And that's why you need to show up, to keep living, to keep moving forward. And the second time was when I did my adventure, my biking adventure around Switzerland last year for 3 weeks. Even the days I didn't feel like it, I had to pack my stuff and go on my bike to ride my bike for as long as I could. I couldn't stop. I needed to keep moving forward. I wasn't motivated someday to go on my bike and keep going, but I had to because I have a very limited time frame to make it happen. And that's the same for my marathon training, and that's the same for life. So in this period, couple of weeks before the marathon, a lot of self-doubt and a lot of unmotivation. But that's when you need to push forward. That's when you actually need not to listen too much of yourself. Because it's not about being injured. It's about just doubting yourself. And that's a different thing. Probably something we touched on a little bit already is the focus and the slow progress needed to such a thing. And that's the fourth lesson that endurance and marathon running taught me, is to have your focus on what you need to do in front of you for the next kilometer, the next training session, and focus to do a little bit better than last time. So for running, it depends because you have different training sessions you can have. And here, I just want to give a disclaimer. I'm not a professional runner. I've been studying a bit the craft, and I know there are so many different ways to practice. I will probably get into that a bit later on. But I just like to do things the way I want to do. So it's definitely not a recommendation how you should do your training. But I love to focus on enjoyment and slow progress. And that's why, for me, it's been a big lesson here to really take one session after the other, and during the race, 1 kilometer after the other, and just like progress over time. And at the moment in my content creation project and business, that's exactly how I want to apply it. I want to show up, lesson number 3, but focus on slow progress. I don't need to to do every video perfectly, every photos perfectly. But as long as I show up and I try to make it the intention to progress every time, then ultimately it can compound over time. And 2 years from now, I'm going to watch my videos and look at, oh, I did a lot of, my journey was a long journey to get to be very at ease in front of camera, but at least I showed up, I focused on little progress, and now it's getting better. So the lesson number 4 of running was definitely to focus on one session after the other and trying to just progress a little bit. Time for little tea. And the lesson number 5 that marathon running taught me is something that we a little bit touched on with the humility parts. But usually when you start a dream or you start to practice for something and you are new into the activity, you know nothing. You might have assumption of how you should do it, but as you're not an expert yet, you don't know. But your ego, and my ego in this case, was make me think that I knew how to run. You just run, right? And that's where the humility part is also here. And you have to let go of the ego. And that's why it was more than a lesson, it was a reminder to be the beginner again, to be the learner, the student again. And because I've been running a lot throughout my life, I thought I knew it. I was wrong. Because running a half marathon or running a marathon is not the same sport. And that's what the first marathon in Lausanne taught me, very brutally. So I started to study more about training for a marathon and running in general. And it's been quite interesting to see that there are a lot of different things to do. First, it's not about running fast every time, like I just said. There are different types of training. So there's like long distance training where you just like focus on the length of the race, it's long run. There is maybe the more fast-paced run where you, for example, run fast for 1 kilometer, then you rest, then you do that 10 times. And there's also like middle and there's also like easy, very easy run where you just like, you almost feel like you're not running. And there's one more where it's like more like in the middle kind of run. And I didn't do a lot of those runs. But the point here is by being a student of the whole thing, I learned that there was like different type of way of running, that feeding yourself is a very, very huge part of long endurance races, which I totally ignored in my last marathon and in every races in the past. And it was actually a very big part because physiologically, your body is not made to be running that long. So if you don't bring it the necessary food to keep going, then your brain will tell your body to shut off and stop running. That's exactly what happened to me a year and a half ago. But becoming the students of the craft of running taught me so many things. And I still have so much to learn, to perfect, to improve. And that's the mindset that I want to remind myself. It could be for photography, videography, content creation. is that I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to express myself better, to create better content for you, to create better photos. And that's the message I want to give you here. Is like keep that learner mindset for whatever you are doing when you are going after your dreams, your goals, the craft you are doing. Just keep that learning and learner mindset. So that was lesson number 5. Let's go to lesson number 6. It's definitely the obvious benefit of training for a marathon. So lesson number 6 is the benefits of running and practicing for a marathon. It might seem obvious, but as I was running between 40 to 60, 70 kilometers per week, I really increased my physical fitness level. Yes, it's obvious. I mean, the more you do sport, the fitter you will be. But the fact that I had in my mind the idea to run the marathon a couple of weeks, a month in front of me, forced me to train more intensively than I would do if I didn't have a race in front of me. And I could vividly feel the benefits of being quite fit. So yes, I just said before that at some part I was really tired of running a lot, but most of the time I was feeling really fit, whether it's in the stairs or when I was playing another sport with friends. I went to play badminton a lot with friends, and I felt like I was flying, to be honest. And that was because of the training and the fact that I wanted to do that race. That in other areas of my life, I was also benefiting from that challenge. And I think that's the same in life. For example, something that I did a lot in the past and I still do regularly, especially now that I bought an ice bath, is ice bathing. To challenge myself again and again over time to do that, I could feel the benefits of feeling in better health condition and feeling better overall also in my mind and being more resilient because I was able to do that for a long period of time, to put myself in discomfort and in the cold. And I've been doing ice bathing since 2018 now. And still today, it's hard to do it when I have to do it, but I can see the benefits in my mind, in my body. I feel so much better after each time I do that. And if you're going after your dreams or a career or content creation or whatever you are going after, even if you don't see them straight away, you will benefit somehow from the thing you are doing now. It could be in skills. So for example, if you are starting to learn about videography and photography, even if after a year of trying to learn the thing, you decided it's not for you, you still got the knowledge and the skills and your practice of trying to do that. So maybe you will get back to it in 10 years from now, and you will have the knowledge and the skills that you developed of photography and videography that you can apply in a different context because you did it. And that's a hidden benefit. And you can see that in everything we do. Everything we do especially when it's positive and going after a goal or a dream or something that inspires us, there are always benefits and things to learn, even if our path, our life path, brings us further away from what we initially thought. But those are skills, those are benefits that it can help us later on. And that's what practicing, especially during the whole training phase of the marathon, I felt, damn, I'm flying. I'm flying. And it was because I challenged myself to do that. And I wouldn't feel as fit as I didn't have that challenge. So it's very interesting to observe the hidden benefits of this. So that was the lesson number 6, the hidden benefits of training for something that is important for us, whether it's a marathon, a dream, a new career path, whatever it is, there's going to be benefits. And the last one, the obvious one, I would say, but that's the thing that drives me in my life for most of the thing I do, is to challenge myself. And that's the main reason why I do this, running a marathon. And I had conversation with friends that just look at me and what I was doing, like, why are you doing that? Why are you inflicting yourself so much pain just to run? And that's the whole thing. It's for the challenge. I'm quite driven by challenges in general, especially when it sparks my curiosity, or especially when it's in the realm of adventure, sports, movement, physical endurance. Because I've been doing that all my life, running, moving. But the challenging part of any challenges is to grow. And for me, there is a very big desire in myself, especially since I lost my dad, to keep growing, keep challenging myself, to understand and go into the depths of who I am. So it's a challenge from the outside, especially for a marathon, like a physical challenge. But it's also a way of self-exploration, to discover who I am, to push my limits, to see and observe how I react in front of difficulties. And that's a very important point for me. How do I react in front of difficulties? How can I train that muscle of facing adversity? Because losing my dad in those tragic circumstances taught me that life is not always easy. Life is made up of ups and downs, and it's inevitable. If you have not experienced, in your opinion, any hardship, it will come. And it's also true for the opposite. If you feel like you are in the darkness, keep moving forward. There is the light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, challenges, whether it's a marathon race, whether it's ice bathing, whether it's adventuring, whether it's being in nature, it's to train that muscle of, okay, when the hard time comes, I'm not sure I will be ready, but at least I would have practiced that muscle. And in the same time, I will discover more of myself. I will get more aligned of who I am. And I will keep growing as a person. And those are the reasons why I challenge myself to run that marathon this way. And this is just the beginning. I don't know what's going to be my next challenge. At the moment, I'm thinking about running a half marathon in less than 1 hour and 36 minutes to beat my personal record on that distance, and kind of like to reverse time to see I can, even if I'm getting older now, I can still beat myself. The 26, 27 years old Blaze. But it's not always about running. In my case, I will be crossing Switzerland with my bike very soon as well, once again. But I will still have this spirit of challenges. And for now, for me, one big goal, one big challenge I'm having is to create a business out of this content creation thing. And it's exciting because I love doing this. And it's challenging because I never done it. And I love to explore myself and follow my curiosity. And that's why I have challenges along the way. And that's why at this moment, I had this challenge to run my second marathon without walking and under 4 hours. Even if I thought I would do better at the beginning, I was really proud at the end to finish in less than 4 hours. And there's probably going to be a new marathon in 2025. We'll see. That's something that I'm not ready to announce, but there's a good chance that I'm going to be running a third marathon to make it under 3 hours and 30 minutes, probably. But anyway, here, the last lesson, number 7, is just to challenge yourself. Get out of your comfort zone and learn about yourself and push your limits. And that's why I do that. So to summarize, the 7 lessons that endurance training taught me, the first one is that it's normal to be ambitious when you are envisioning your dreams or your goals. But ultimately, the journey is what humbles you. And that's what exactly happened with the 2 marathon race I done. The second one is the importance of showing up. Even if you don't feel like it, just show up. Just put your shoes. Just do that 2 lines of running for that podcast episode, that post on social media, that song you're writing. Just start. Even if it's not the way you want it to, just start. Just do it. Just show up. Lesson number 2. Lesson number 3 is to learn to slow down and pace yourself. If you are on a path to make something doing for a long time, for example, a career path, a big project, big dream, big adventure you have, just pace yourself. Learn to slow down. Learn to identify when you need to rest so that you can perform over a longer period of time. Lesson number 4 is to really focus on each session, each kilometer, each task, and focus on slow progress. So you have this task, you have this run, you have this challenge, focus on that and try to make it a bit better than last time. And that's been my mindset from my first marathon to my second marathon in Geneva. And probably my goal is going to be to improve for the next marathon I might be running. Lesson number 5 is to become a student again, a beginner mindset again, and leave your assumption about how you think it should be done and try to learn from the actual experts, or maybe not the expert, but somebody who's been doing it already, that may be just in front of you in terms of learning curve, that they can teach you a little bit about how you can improve. Lesson number 6, it's the hidden benefits of going after something important for you. Even if you're never gonna do that for a longer period of time after what you are doing, you will benefit from those times where you put the work and you focused on getting better at the thing, that maybe later on you will be able to use that skill. Feel better at the moment if it's a physical challenge, and feel like you can fly. That's been my feeling when I was training for the marathon. And the seventh one, and the last one, is just to challenge yourself. That's how we grow. That's how we become better. That's how we get to know ourselves deeper in those moments of very hardship. So challenge yourself. And that's what happened for me. And I'm going to end this podcast episode on the moment it was the hardest during the race. I knew the hardship would come around kilometer 30, as it's quite common in the marathon running space to have this number into mind. I started to suffer at kilometer 34. And the thing is that in that race, you kind of like just pass in front of the finish line around kilometer 35, but you still have 7 kilometers to do. So you see the finish line, but you still have to go around the city to go to the finish line. And at this moment, it was particularly hard because I wanted to give up, because I wanted to walk, but I still had 7 kilometers to go. And then at kilometer 40, that's when I was like, I'm done. I actually did a real video about that where I'm filming myself. I'm just saying to the camera, I'm done. And I'm really in this mindset to one foot after the other. And I finally reached the finish line. Feeling pretty good, exhausted. The only thing I wanted to was to walk and just like to make it stop. But I was really proud because I finished in 3 hours and 50 minutes. And I was under the 4-hour mark. So it's been challenging. It's been quite a hell of an adventure. And I've been resting a little bit now. And I'm focusing a bit more on my first love, I would say, which is at the moment biking, cycling. And I cannot wait to go on more adventures. And to give you a bit of a hint of what's coming, I will be hiking 1 week with my girlfriend in the mountains in Switzerland. And I will challenge myself again to cross Switzerland to do a diagonal crossing of Switzerland for 1 week by myself. So yeah, life is made up of challenges, ups and downs, and doing a marathon is definitely a hell of a challenge. So if you want to push yourself, this is a good training. All right. Thank you so much for being here at the end of this podcast episode. Please share it with me, any of the lessons I shared with you. If there's one that resonates with you, just shoot me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'll be pleased to start a conversation with you to get to know you and to know how you felt about this challenge. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere you are in. It does help a lot. And if you are on YouTube, please subscribe. I will try to publish more and more of the podcast on video formatting. And yeah, challenge yourself, enjoy the process, because the journey is the goal. All right, that's it for me today. Thank you so much. Bye.